Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Dorman. I'm the publisher of Pamela Dorman Books at Viking and Penguin. And my little librarian story is that I was such a book nerd that what I thought the best thing was as an elementary school kid was when Mrs. Braithwaite, my librarian, said that I could help her pick the books out of the Brodart catalog. So I'm with ya. I couldn't be happier to be here introducing one of my all-time favorite writers, J. Ryan Stradal, author of Kitchens of the Great Midwest. And, I loved this book from the minute I read the title on the agent submission letter. And that feeling, that feeling when you're a reader where you start something and you just think, ooh, yeah, this is for me. I started this book and I was on fire. And as people will tell you, when I want something as an editor, I am like a little schnauzer with a bone. I gotta have it. And Kitchens was that book for me last summer. I just loved it. It was like nothing I'd ever read. And a lot of you have read it, so I won't tell you the story. But I will say that I think J. Ryan's voice is sui generis. It's so original. It's so much fun. And he is so much fun. So let me just tell you a teeny bit about him. You probably know he's a native Midwesterner. He's from Minnesota originally. And Kitchens is really a love letter to his home. But the truth is that, as he says, he's not really a typical Midwestern guy because, after all, he's the only man in his family who still doesn't own a gun or a motorcycle. He's got great literary cred. He's the editor of the fiction section of the Nervous Breakdown. His writing has appeared in the Rumpus and the Los Angeles Review of Books and Sweeties, among others. But to give you an idea of his range, and this is how I actually think of him, he lives in LA now, and his day job has been as a reality TV producer for such shows as the History Channel's Ice Road Truckers and Discovery Channel's Deadliest Catch, and just get him started talking on those stories. His book has already started getting amazing blurbs and raves all over the place. First from writers like Jim Shepard and Eden Lapuki and Janet Fitch, among others. So many booksellers have already come on board to say how much they love this book, and so many of you. So I'm thrilled by that. But perhaps as an editor, my greatest thrill so far has been the announcement last week that Kitchens was voted the next tidal wave pick by the entire Penguin Random sales force. To give you an idea of what that means, the tidal wave books are one book a season that the whole sales force across the company says, we are going to make this book the book that everybody is putting in everyone's hands in a month or so. To give you an idea of the previous ones, you probably know Girl on the Train and Station 11 were two of the previous titles. J. Ryan is what my father, a Democrat, used to say was a great American, a genuinely smart, nice, funny guy that you'll all want to hang out with later. And here he is.
Thanks, Pam, and thanks, Shannon, for both of you for getting me up this morning. And thanks, Madeline. I saw her here in the back. For your support this year. And thanks to Dominique and Maureen, wherever they are, for making the bars. And yeah, thanks, Brian. I see my agent back there. Hello. Much like Garth, I really identified with his story about growing up in North Carolina. I grew up in a small town in Minnesota where the literary community was my parents and the librarians. My hometown of Hastings has put a lot of people in the NHL. Including someone who I understand now plays for the New York Rangers, but I don't know his name. I don't think we were friends in high school. And as such, I grew up spending an awful lot of time in the libraries. And similar to Garth's story, the librarians in my hometown slaked my curiosities, which started, like a lot of normal boys. I was really into dinosaurs, then Greek mythology. Then eventually I really got into U.S. presidents. And I really particularly was fond of Millard Fillmore. Now, I won't go so far as to say that Millard Fillmore is underrated. I think he's properly rated. But I felt like he needed an advocate. And it was at the library that I went and I said, hey, can I use your copy machine to copy this picture of Millard Fillmore? And they were like, yeah, sure, what for? I was like, I want to make a Millard Fillmore button so I can wear it around and just have this, it's a surefire way to make friends, Other kids coming up to you like, oh yeah, Fillmore, yeah. It's my third favorite Fillmore, But for the most part, they were the friends and support system I had when I wanted to make a Millard Fillmore pin to wear around 5th grade, or they also convinced me to write an author for the first time. In 1st grade, my favorite book was The Dinosaurs of North America by Helen Roney Sadler, who was a writer who lived in Montana. And they said, oh, you like this book? Would you like to write the author? And I said, what? You can do that? Of course, yeah. And I did, and she wrote back. And that was amazing to me. Like, they're real. I mean, books to me felt like they came from another planet, and I really wanted to be on that planet. But I certainly didn't know any authors, didn't know anyone who wanted to become an author, didn't know anyone who said they were a writer, at least until eventually my mom went back to school and got an English degree and brought home her school, the University of Wisconsin River Falls' literary journal, which I would bring in for show and tell. Say, like, my mom's a published writer. She's this mimeograph journal, but it was so dear to me, and librarians really slake that. I also went to my first literary event in my hometown library. My first time seeing a real live author reading. It was a nonfiction writer who was reading from a book about the Voyageurs of northern Minnesota, the Voyageurs. I don't know how to pronounce it. But I was not something I was interested in. It was not Dinosaurs or Millard Fillmore, but I was entranced. Like, here's a real author in the flesh. And it was so cool to see that and to see an author who, like, bothered to come to my town. I thought, this is so cool. Like where are we in the world? It was so nice of him. And it really meant a lot to me. And I'm reading in my hometown library on October 9th, and I think it's going to be extremely emotional. And I don't know. It's to me, it's going to be the highlight of the year. I went through a lot of trouble to make it happen, and as Shannon can attest, like, I really had to jury rig this into part of the tour because there was very few dates they could do it, and I was like, oh, I gotta do it. Thank you to all the librarians here for making me what I am today. I volunteer with kids back in LA. I know the effect of concerned adult on an imaginative child. And for 10 years, I've been volunteering with kids largely because of the adults who affected my life as a kid. And it's all started with librarians. And I think about it every day, and my life wouldn't be the same without it. Much like myself, my character Eva Torvald in Kitchens of the Great Midwest is a little bit of an outsider in terms of how her interests set her apart from her community. She's a young foodie. When it's birthday time at school, in elementary school, she doesn't want to bring cake like the other kids. She wants to bring vegan blueberry sorbet. And I totally identify with that. And I really wanted to write about this kind of character who grows up a foodie in a world that doesn't, that at best is indifferent to it and at points even hostile. I certainly grew up in such a world myself. Small-town Minnesota of the 1980s, I think, was close to the apotheosis of the better living through chemistry era in terms of food. I think food was valued for convenience and speed. It was not like, if something was locally sourced, it means you got it from the Cub Foods around the corner. There was none of this artisanal stuff. It was very, we ate a lot of microwave dinners. My dad would make something called slumgullion, which I think he picked up from the Army. It was, and that was fit to feed his children. What it was a can of chicken noodle soup put in a pan without water added, and then sometimes he would chop up some meat and throw it in and add a whole bunch of black pepper and just heat it up, and there you go. That'll keep you warm. Then he also had this thing called whiplash, which was, it was like leftover spaghetti and meat sauce from the night before that he just fried on the stove. And so it was kind of crispy leftovers. And pepper helped with that, or sometimes you would just dump Tabasco on it. Sometimes there'd be leftover pizza. Oh, I'd put Tabasco on it. There, it's a different meal now. Like, I'm sick of pizza. I just had pizza last night. You haven't had this. Like, all right. True. And now my dad, he's the healthiest eater I know, and that's saying something considering I live in Los Feliz in Los Angeles. He only eats meat from like farmers that he knows. He grows a lot of his own vegetables. He has his own pepper garden, which is very hard to do in USDA hardiness zone 5A where he lives. As in my book attests, like many people, I know people who resort to hydroponics to grow their hot peppers, as my character did. And my dad does not. He has a south-facing garden. He makes sure his serranos get plenty of stress, and yeah, and it's remarkable to have observed his evolution as an eater and as a chef, and that evolution is also mirrored in Kitchens of the Great Midwest. And it contains 8 recipes, 5 of which are from my great-grandmother's Lutheran church in Hunter, North Dakota, which is a tiny little town. It does have a book club. I think I'm going to try to communicate with them as well on the tour. That'll be a blast. But yeah, 5 of the 8 recipes are from the First Lutheran Church Women 1984 edition, including the bars recipe out there. I do feel bad that I left out salads, but that's probably for another book. For anyone who's spent any time in the Midwest, you'll understand there's a very liberal notion of what constitutes salad. Like it may contain Jell-O or meat, or Jell-O and meat. It's just an admixture of cold things. You can literally put the same ingredients in the oven and have hot dish. And so I thank you in advance for reading the book, and I apologize in advance for the calories from the recipes.